Hello, Monster Bound here, with some big news, big Total War Warhammer 3 news. It's Ogre Kingdoms. Ogre Kingdoms have finally been announced as a pre-order bonus for Total War Warhammer 3 to no one's surprise. That's right, the big dad bod ogres. Very musical, weirdly musical, but there we go. They've finally been, I mean, if this is a surprise to you, then I don't know where you've been for the past few months. They've endlessly teased it and even put them in the fucking game, so it should come as no surprise. But if it does, then Ogre Kingdoms. Cool, eh? And we also got other big news. Now, I don't normally do news like this, but there's so much news and I got really important stuff as well. The release date is the 17th of February next year, so stick that in your diaries. We've finally got a release date, which is very exciting. And we've got news about the Collector Edition, as in there is not one, but there's physical editions. We'll talk about those as well. And we'll also talk about the Ogre Kingdoms. And also where you can get the game. Now, obviously, if you're thinking about pre-ordering and you're not interested in the physical or limited edition, then I'd advise waiting. Obviously, if you want the physical or limited edition, up to you. But if you're going to just buy it off Steam, fair play. But you don't need to worry. It's not going to be limited in number, is it? So you don't have to worry about it. So what you can do is wait for up to a week after the game comes out and still get the Ogre Kingdom pre-order bonus. So the best thing to do really is wait. Wait until the game comes out, see what the reviews say, see what people say on Reddit and the Discord. And if it looks good, pick it up, get the pre-order bonus. That's a sensible thing to do. If you're like me and you're a fucking idiot and you go and pre-order it anyway, because that's exactly what I would do. Now, to be fair, I'm going to get the game for free. I will get a key for free, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a limited edition copy anyway. Because I want the bits in it. Also, I can give the key to my brother. But still, the point is that even if I wasn't getting it, I would pre-order the shit out of this immediately. Now, if you're gonna be an idiot like me and do that, consider doing it through my Nexus store, because then I'll get a big old kickback for it, and I fucking love kickbacks. So you can find the link in the description. Sensible people, though, will just fucking wait, because why wouldn't you? You'll get the pre-order bonus anyway. Fucking who cares, right? See what the game's like first, then pre-order it. Now, let's talk about the Ogre Kingdoms, because that's the really big news, isn't it? The huge news. So it should come as no surprise. It's the Ogre Kingdoms. Now, if you don't know who the Ogre Kingdoms are, the Ogre Kingdoms are the kingdoms of ogres, and they live in the mountains of Moor. Now, if you're looking at if you don't know where the Ogre Kingdoms are sort of on the Warhammer map, if you're not very familiar with Warhammer but you enjoy the game, then if you're looking at the Mortal Empire's map, the Ogre Kingdoms are sort of based in the mountains of Moor, and we have the World's Edge Mountains at the far eastern side of the Mortal Empire's map. Beyond that we have the Darklands, that's where sort of like the Chaos Dwarves and stuff live. And beyond that is then the mountains of Moor. That's where your ogres live. Now, they didn't always live there, they actually migrated there. Originally, the ogres came from the other side of the mountains of Moor, further to the east, and they were sort of nestled between the mountains of Moor to their west and Cathay to their east. And they got used as mercenaries a lot by Cathay, until they maybe ate one or two Cathayan peasant children, and the Dragon Emperor, in his infinite wisdom, decided to completely nuke their homeland by dropping a meteor on top of it. Now, it seems like a bit of an overreaction, but in the Dragon Emperor's defense, he's an immortal dragon god thing. He doesn't have a frame of reference for what, you know. It's like asking a billionaire how much a bottle of milk is. They don't fucking know. 50 quid? I don't know. I pay people to know. So he dropped a comet on it. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a warpstone comet, and so caused a little bit more devastation than it should have done. And it resulted in the warpstone desert, so that's fun. Now, the result of that cataclysm was the Great Moor, which is the information on the Great Moor is a little bit hazy, but the ogres see it as a giant mouth, ravenously hungry, trying to swallow the ogres whole. The Great Moor is something the ogres worship, but it isn't necessarily a benevolent god. It's very much something they feed to keep happy. And it also makes them ravenously hungry. That's why in the video you can see them just stuffing their mouth. That's pretty much what they do. They just eat everything. They're big hungry boys. And when the Warpstone hit and the Great Moor was created, the ogres fled westward. They fled into the mountains, and fleeing into the mountains, they were obviously hungry. They ran straight into the Sky Titans. The Sky Titans were sort of progenitors of the giants. They lived right at the top of the biggest mountains. They controlled powerful magic. They were like giants, but much bigger, more intelligent. Also quite solitary. The ogres ate them all, just one by one, took them down, ate them all, and the Sky Titans that were left sort of like devolved into giants, and the giants are sort of like the withered, pathetic, stunted, pitiful variants of the Sky Titans now. And the ogres then settled in the mountains where they could sort of like, they had plenty to eat, and they could get their big meaty paws on as much food as they wanted. It looks like at least one of the lords is going to be Greasiest Goldtooth. We saw him at the end of the video there. He is the over-tyrant of the Ogre Kingdoms. He earned his title of being brutal, powerful, and cunning, as well as huge. I mean, massive. So huge, he's actually carried around and into battle by his Noblar servants, who often get crushed, die of, you know, heart attacks and various bad backs, that kind of thing. Don't let his Jabba the Hutt-esque physique belie the fact that he is massively strong. He once crushed a Black Orc warlord into paste just by bear hugging him. He is the ogre over tyrant for a fucking reason. So on top of the ogres, I mean, you wouldn't want to be underneath. We also got information on the collector's edition. There isn't going to be one, unfortunately, due to COVID. Obviously, COVID's been a huge factor for a couple of years now. Totally understandable. They're not going to have a collector's edition. Really shame. I really wanted to get my hands on it. It's going to be disappointing for anyone that's got the other two collector's editions, not to get the third one. But, you know, that's just as it is. There are, however, going to be two physical copies. It's going to be a day one copy, which comes with a map of the campaign map, as well as a sort of physical campaign map, and also some stickers of the Chaos Gods, which is fun. There's also going to be a limited edition which comes with the map and the stickers, and also an embossed DVD case as well. So obviously, if you want to get your hands on that, I don't think there's going to be any issue with the supply, but obviously it could be worth pre-ordering those. So the other big news is that because we got to take a look at the physical editions, they came with the map, we got to look at the campaign map as well, because that was in the image. So we look at the campaign map. As it stands, the map contains the areas around the Realm of Chaos itself and the Chaos Wastes, acting as a top-down view from the very north pole of the Warhammer world. This does mean that the further south you get, sort of the more squished the provinces do appear, but it seems like it goes all in the southwest. It goes all the way down to Altdorf. By the looks of it, you can see Nordland, Midland, the Wastelands, that kind of thing down there. You can also maybe even we may even be touching Nagrond in the northwest. Yeah, northwest. But I don't think we'll actually see any Nagrond. I think we'll see the Chaos Waste that sort of like run along the top. I don't think we'll actually see Nagrond itself, so potentially no Dark Elves there. Unless maybe the map sort of extends a little bit and we get Albion and Rakarth, but who knows? Alternatively, Cathay seems to be a bit squeezed into the northeast. And then we have the Mountains of Morn in the centre where the ogres reside, and the Plains of Zar, where we will no doubt get some Chaos Dwarf DLC. If the Chaos Dwarves aren't one, if not even the first DLC, then I'll be amazed, because it's a big patch where you could definitely get some big Chaos Dwarf action. Now, despite mentioning Indo Nippon throughout sort of the marketing campaign, they're nowhere on the map that we can see. But they may expand the map later, potentially. I guess it depends if they ever actually want to put those races in the game. Having them on the Warhammer 3 map as it stands would mean that they'd either have to spend some dev time getting a Ghost of a faction in place, kind of like Bretonnia was, before Bretonnia was actually released in Warhammer 1, or they would have to leave it empty. And I guess if they weren't planning to put them in, the best option is to cut off those areas so they're just not there. That tends to, you know, that would probably be, otherwise just like, it's full of, I don't know, greenskins or something, because why the fuck not? And that would probably not work very well. So I guess, you know, we've kind of made the assumption they're going to go in that direction. Maybe they will. They might expand the map in that direction. The other thing is that although we got like a little tease of the map here, we don't have confirmation this is the full map. It might be that the map's actually slightly bigger. I would certainly suggest this is probably the majority of the map. but whether there's sort of like maybe some areas of the map they've sort of like folded around, maybe teased us, I don't know. Until we get confirmation of what the map actually looks like, it's, you know, it's anyone's guess really. So we know the Ogre Kingdoms are coming. We know what the campaign map looks like. We know there's no collector's edition, and we know when the release date is. Did I already mention that one? Maybe. Fuck knows. I've forgotten. Now, the other big bit of information here, and this isn't maybe as exciting for me as it might be for some other people, but Xbox Game Pass for PC. The game is going to be available through that. So, if you have that, you will be able to just get Warhammer 3, which is pretty cool. And I've never used that myself, but some other Total War content partners, particularly ones in sort of like Latin speaking audiences, I think it's more of a big deal for those countries where I think it's more of a sort of like a mainstream thing. I mean, maybe it's more of a mainstream thing in this country. I genuinely don't know. I've never actually used it, so I've never heard of anyone using it either. The only time I've heard it mentioned is content partners sort of asking if the game is ever going to be on the Game Pass. So I guess the answer is now yes. So that's good. I think, you know, the more ways there are to play Total Warhammer 3 can only be a good thing. So that's fantastic. Really like that. It's also going to be available via Steam and the Epic Games Store and the Microsoft Store. So that's good news as well. So lots of information. I mean, it's fantastic. The game's it feels a lot closer now, doesn't it? I don't know where the year's gone, but it's definitely, the fact it's coming in February, sort of like I want to say mid-February, that makes it more optimistic in my opinion. So, you know, a few months to wait, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more information soon. Nurgle and Slaanesh will no doubt be peeking their little heads above the parapets very soon. Can't wait to see some Nurgle action. Oh, it's all coming together. It's all coming up Millhouse. Fantastic stuff. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.